Good morning. Welcome to the Daily Lift. This is my new YouTube channel. I'm not new to YouTube. I've been on YouTube before about 4 years ago, and my account got hacked and I got locked out with two-step verifications and everything. My videos are still on YouTube and my face, my picture, everything, but I have no access to it. So if anybody knows how I can get my channel back, comment down below, and I'll definitely do that because I've tried at least what I know in terms of Google and I don't know if it's something that YouTube could help with, but if you know how to, you know, get your channel back, then let me know. The thing about it is that a lot of the videos that I had or have up there, I no longer have because I was making videos on my phone and then it got full and I had to delete stuff. And I still have some of that to prove that it is my channel, but I really don't know where to go from here. But anyway, I'm starting this again. This is the Daily Lift. This channel is based on my experience from a child growing up, how God has worked through my life, the type of mistakes I've made, the consequences of those mistakes that I have had to deal with and still to some degree continue to deal with, and to help to serve the greater community as it pertains to standing in whatever the situation is, being encouraged, being delivered, being healed, walking in your healing, forgiveness, love, redemption, all of it. We're going to talk about all of it. But today I wanted to start from the beginning, as far back from the beginning as I remember. And I don't really want to make this video long. I want to keep it short so that you can get through it and get the gist of what it is that I'm trying to deliver. So from the title, I know you're probably wondering Daily Lift, and this is the title, but it's part of the journey, right? You start somewhere, and it is when God shows his hand and delivers and protects, that you recognize that, hey, I might have been in a place of darkness, but here's what God has done, and here's what God can do. So when I was younger, by the way, I'm from the islands, so a lot of this has to do with culture. And I know with different cultures, all of us, we don't necessarily understand what people deal with every day, because that's not our culture. It's not understandable. But as we go through this, keep that in mind. I am originally from the islands. When I was a baby, my mom went away, and I was a year and a half. And I stayed with my grandmother. My grandmother was married. I'm not sure if she was married to this man before I was born or after I was born. But I was with her from a year and a half to about 3 years old. And then my dad, who lived in another Caribbean island, came and got me, and I stayed with him from 3 to 9. At 9 years old, I was sent back to my grandmother from my mother's side. She decided that she wanted me to be with her, but then eventually I ended back up with my grandmother. My grandmother's husband was a deviant, okay? He was a pedophile. And in that culture, you don't necessarily say things. It's hard to open up and say you're being touched. And growing up, it's what I experienced with him. He would wait until the late hours of the night when I was asleep, and then he would come in and touch me in those parts that adults should never touch children. And for years I dealt with that. And the problem was that not that he was touching just me, he was touching his own children, who were my aunts. I was little, but they were maybe 19, 20. And I experienced my aunt crying in the middle of the night. She would take a towel and put it in her mouth and just bawl into the towel so that she would muffle her sounds and her cries and her tears. And I would be on the floor, because that's where I slept, crying silently, because she wasn't the only one dealing with it. And whether or not she knew what he was doing to me or not, at that time, I did not know. But I started to figure out ways to protect myself. So even while sleeping on the floor, they would say that I'm a bad sleeper. So that's the reason I was sleeping on the floor. Not on the plain floor, guys. There were blankets and pillows and things like that. But I would, in the middle of the night, I would roll under the bed. That way I would be inaccessible to him when he came into the room. And they would also say, they would say all the time, oh, you know, she sleeps so bad, she sleeps so bad. And so I gave into that. Yeah, I sleep bad, and that's the reason I'm rolling under. But it really wasn't. It was my way of protecting myself. But every time he came in and he didn't have access to me, then he had access to my aunt. And guys, this is something that my aunt and myself never spoke about. I was 9. She was older than I was. But one day she decided to tell my grandmother, whom at the time I called mom. And once she did, I piped up and I said, yeah, me too, mommy. He touches me too. All right. And guess what grandma said? Grandma said, don't tell anybody. That was her first thought, her first sentences. Don't tell anybody. I will talk to Daddy and take care of it. Now, did grandma do that? I don't know. It never stopped. It never stopped. And looking back, I know that the enemy had a plan for my life. He did. And it was to kill, to steal, and destroy. And he wasn't the only one. His kids were pedophiles too. Not all of them. But I remember one night waking up and there was somebody in the bed. I thought it was my aunt. And then I turned around and realized that it was one of his sons. And here he is, my abuser, running down the hall into the room with a hose, beating his son, who probably learned the behavior from him. And so I stayed in that part of the Caribbean until I was 14, and it never stopped. Every opportunity he got or he could get, he would touch me, and it was never fixed. Whether my grandmother spoke to him or not, I don't know, because he never stopped. When I was 14, thank God, my father, who lived in another Caribbean island, decided that I should come for the summer and spend time with him. And they agreed, and I went, and I never came back. And I told my dad what happened and when I got there and why I didn't want to go back, and he kept me. He did not send me back there. I look back and I see God's hand in this. I want to remind us that whatever the enemy meant for harm, God is able to use it or turn it around for our good. You know, the Bible says that we're overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. And these are testimonies that the enemy tried to kill me. He tried to destroy me. And he did not succeed. God delivered me. And this message is for someone or people or young ones who are currently in this situation. Can I just say, no matter how hard it is, tell somebody. If the people that are closest to you won't do anything about it, tell somebody on the outside, okay? Tell your teachers, find a policeman, tell someone. Because the longer you stay silent, is the more the enemy has an opportunity to destroy you. This is not an easy situation to walk through. I know a lot of us, a lot of women and men, young girls and young boys have walked these paths. And it changed the trajectory of our lives as we grow older. And in my other videos, I'll talk about how it took me 44 years to recognize that some of the decisions that I was making and some of the areas that I was walking was all based on this foundation that I had that was built by somebody else. And I just want to say, find somebody and tell somebody. But even now, I want to tell you that God can deliver, that God will deliver. You give him an opportunity and he will. Keep praying. Keep praying. When I was younger, I grew up Catholic. And I don't know how it is now, how the Catholic Church is now, but then it was more performance based. There was never really a relationship with God, right? So you made first communion and then you confirmed and then you confess your sin to the priest, and it was kind of something that you just did. You know, there was no relationship. There was no, it's almost like the priest talked to God for you. You know, it's almost like there was no time where you just had that intimacy with God, where you were able to kind of just lay everything in front of him, where you were able to let your tears flow and tell him how you feel and ask him to save you, to protect you, to guide you, to cover you. A lot of people like to blame God for things like this. And I think we need to understand that we currently live in a fallen world. The Bible says that the enemy is the prince of the power of the ear here. And he orchestrates things. You know, when God called him up and asked him what he was doing, he said he was roaming around seeking who he may devour. You know, so that's his job. That's his job. But we have to make sure that in the process we're not devoured by him, but that we're covered and protected under the mighty hand of God. Thank you so much for watching. We'll continue with this on my next video. We'll talk a little bit about some of the trauma that I dealt with that kept me bound, even in my life and as an adult, and caused me to make decisions that now I look back and I regret. People say all the time, don't look back and don't regret. I think conviction comes with regret. You know, when you know that you could have made a different choice that would have put your life on a different trajectory. And while it's good to have a testimony, which one of us wants to go through hell, right? We don't. The Bible promises that we will have tribulation. We know that tribulation worketh patience, patience worketh hope, hope maketh not ashamed. So today I'm not ashamed of what I went through. I'm able to now use it to speak to you, to speak to those that are currently going through the situations that I've gone through, and to encourage you and to let you know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. No matter how dark it seems now, there is light at the end of the tunnel. God is able to take everything that the enemy meant to harm you and turn it around for your good, for the good of others. So that today, sitting here, I can say, I did it. I went through it. I came out on the other side of it, and so can you. Thank you for watching and be blessed. I'll see you in the next video.